Preface to St. Gregory's Pastoral Care by King Alfred. King Alfred bids greet Bishop Werferth with his words lovingly and with friendship. And I let it be known to thee that it has very often come into my mind that wise men there formerly were throughout England, both of sacred and secular orders, and what happy times there were then throughout England, and how the kings who had power over the nation in those days obeyed God and his ministers, how they preserved peace, morality, and order at home, and at the same time enlarged their territory abroad, and how they prospered both with war and with wisdom, and also how zealous the sacred orders were both in teaching and learning, and in all the services they owed to God, and how foreigners came to this land in search of wisdom and instruction, and how we should now have to get them from abroad if we were to have them. So general was its decay in England that there were very few on this side of the Humber who could understand their rituals in English, or translate a letter from Latin into English, and I believe that there were not many beyond the Humber. There were so few of them that I cannot remember a single one south of the Thames when I came to the throne. Thanks be to the Almighty God that we have any teachers among us now, and therefore I command thee to do as I believe thou art willing, to disengage thyself from worldly matters as often as thou canst, that thou mayest apply the wisdom which God has given thee wherever thou canst. Consider what punishments would come upon us on account of this world, if we neither loved it, wisdom, ourselves, nor suffered other men to obtain it. We should love the name only of Christian, and very few the virtues. When I considered all this, I remembered also that I saw, before it had been ravaged and burned, how the churches throughout the whole of England stood filled with treasures and books, and there was also a great multitude of God's servants. But they had very little knowledge of the books, for they could not understand anything of them, because they were not written in their own language. As if they had said, Our forefathers, who formerly held these places, loved wisdom, and through it they obtained wealth and bequeathed it to us. In this we can still see their tracks, but we cannot follow them, and therefore we have lost both the wealth and the wisdom, because we could not incline our hearts after their example. When I remembered all this, I wondered extremely that the good and wise men who were formerly all over England, and had perfectly learned all the books, had not wished to translate them into their own language. But again I soon answered myself and said, they did not think that men would ever be so careless, and that learning would so decay. Through that desire they abstained from it, since they wished that the wisdom in this land might increase with our knowledge of languages. Then I remembered how the law was first known in Hebrew, and again, when the Greeks had learned it, they translated the whole of it into their own language, and all other books besides. And again the Romans, when they had learned them, translated the whole of them by learned interpreters into their own language, and also all the other Christian nations translated a part of them into their own language. Therefore it seems better to me, if you think so, for us to translate some books which are most needful for all men to know into the language which we can all understand, and for you to do as we very easily can, if we have tranquility enough, that is, that all the youth now in England of free men, who are rich enough to be able to devote themselves to it, be set to learn as long as they are not fit for any other occupation, until they are able to read English writing well, and let those be afterwards taught more in the Latin language, who are to continue in learning, and be promoted to a higher rank. When I remembered how the knowledge of Latin had formerly decayed throughout England, and yet many could read English writing, I began, among other various and manifold troubles of this kingdom, to translate into English the book which is called in Latin Pastoralis, and in English Shepherd's Book, sometimes word by word, and sometimes according to the sense, as I had learned it from Plegmund my archbishop, and Asser my bishop, and Grimbald my mass-priest, and John my mass-priest. And when I had learned it, as I could best understand it, and as I could most clearly interpret it, I translated it into English, and I will send a copy to every bishopric in my kingdom. And in each there is a bookmark worth 50 mancuses, and I command in God's name that no man take the bookmark from the book, or the book from the monastery. It is uncertain how long there may be such learned bishops as now, thanks be to God. They are nearly everywhere. Therefore, I wish them always to remain in their places, unless the bishop wish to take them with him, or they be lent out anywhere, or anyone be making a copy from them.